In the small, sun-bleached town of Woodington, where the horizon shimmered with heat and dreams felt like luxuries, Peter Kane grew up knowing the sting of want. His childhood home was a sagging clapboard house, its roof patched with tarp, where he shared a room with two younger brothers. His mother worked nights at a factory, her hands stained with machine oil, while his father, a mechanic, had long since vanished into the bottle. Peter, though, had a fire in him, a restless ambition that burned brighter than the desert sun. He was lean and wiry, with dark eyes that seemed to see beyond the town's borders, and a mind sharp enough to dream of escape. By his side was Lila Moore, his high school sweetheart, whose laughter was a melody in the chaos of his life. Lila was no stranger to struggle herself, raised by a single mother who cleaned houses to make ends meet.
She had a quiet strength, her hazel eyes warm with empathy, and a smile that could make Peter believe in better days. When he spoke of building a tech empire, of coding something that would change the world, Lila didn't laugh or doubt him. She believed. She worked double shifts at the local diner, her apron stained with coffee and grease, to buy him a second-hand laptop. At night, while Woodington slept, Peter coded in their cramped apartment, Lila dozing beside him with a textbook open, dreaming of a nursing degree she'd never had the chance to pursue. "Peter," she'd say, her voice soft but firm, "you're going to make it. And I'll be right here when you do." He'd kiss her forehead, promising her a life where she'd never have to scrub another plate. It was a vow they sealed under the stars, sitting on the hood of his beat-up Chevy, dreaming of a world beyond Woodington. At 25, Peter's dream came true. His app, ConnectSphere, a platform that revolutionized how people networked online, caught the eye of a Silicon Valley venture capitalist. Overnight, Peter Kane was a millionaire. The boy from Woodington was now a name in tech circles, his face on magazine covers, his bank account swelling with commas. He moved Lila to San Francisco, into a glass-walled mansion perched on a hill, with views of the bay that sparkled like a promise kept. They married in a ceremony that felt like a dream, Lila in a flowing white gown, her hair woven with wildflowers, and Peter, dashing in a tailored suit, unable to take his eyes off her. They danced under chandeliers, surrounded by tech moguls and old friends from Woodington, toasting to a love that had survived the lean years. For a time, life was golden. Peter showered Lila with gifts, diamond necklaces, a sleek convertible, trips to Paris and Bali. Lila, though, remained grounded, more enchanted by quiet evenings with Peter than the glitter of their new world. She enrolled in nursing school, her old dream rekindled, and spoke of starting a family. Peter, caught up in boardrooms and investor meetings, nodded along, but his focus was shifting. Wealth had opened doors to a world of excess, and he was stepping through them. When Lila gave birth to their daughter, Sophie, everything changed. Motherhood transformed Lila, her body softened, her hips fuller, her once slim frame marked by the miracle of life. She was radiant in a new way, her love for Sophie fierce and unwavering, but Peter saw only what she was not. The man who once adored her every flaw now compared her to the polished women who orbited his success. At galas and tech conferences, models and influencers flocked to him, their compliments stroking his ego. Lila, exhausted from late-night feedings and nursing classes, noticed his lingering glances, his clipped tone when she asked him to stay home. "You've changed, Peter," she said one night, Sophie asleep in her crib. They stood in the marble kitchen, the city lights glinting through the windows. "You don't look at me the same." He waved her off, his voice cold. "You're imagining things, Lila. I'm just busy. This is what success looks like." But his words were a lie, and they both knew it. Peter was slipping away, seduced by a world that valued appearance over loyalty. At galas and tech conferences, models and influencers flocked to him. Enter Vanessa Langston, a socialite with a predator's instincts and a smile that could disarm a room. She was tall, with sleek blonde hair and eyes that glittered with ambition. Vanessa met Peter at a charity gala, her red dress clinging to her like a second skin. She flirted shamelessly, praising his genius while subtly mocking Lila's small-town charm. Peter, intoxicated by her attention, began spending late nights at her penthouse, telling Lila he was working. Vanessa saw Peter not as a man but as a prize, a ticket to a life of unchecked luxury. Their affair grew reckless. Peter, once cautious, now flaunted Vanessa at exclusive clubs, ignoring the whispers of his infidelity. Lila, piecing together the late nights and unfamiliar perfume, confronted him. "Who is she, Peter?" she demanded, her voice breaking. He didn't deny it, only shrugged, his eyes hard. "You're not the same, Lila. You let yourself go." The words cut deeper than any knife. Lila, who'd given him everything, felt her world crumble. She threw herself into caring for Sophie, determined to shield her daughter from the fracture in their family. Meanwhile, Vanessa whispered poison in Peter's ear. "Why stay tied to her?" she purred, lounging in his office one evening. "Divorce her, Peter. You deserve someone who matches your status." Peter, blinded by vanity and Vanessa's flattery, agreed. But Vanessa wasn't content to wait for a messy divorce. She knew Lila, as his wife, could claim half his fortune. "You need to protect your assets," she advised, her voice smooth as silk. "Transfer them to me, temporarily. It's the only way to ensure she gets nothing." Peter, trusting her implicitly, began the process. He moved a beachfront villa in Malibu, a Manhattan penthouse, and a chunk of his stock portfolio into Vanessa's name. The transfers, however, were mired in legal red tape, deeds unsigned, titles pending. Vanessa grew impatient, her greed outpacing her charm. She devised a darker plan. At a lavish party in Peter's mansion, attended by tech tycoons and celebrities, Vanessa saw her chance. Among the guests was Marcus Tate, a rival CEO who'd clashed with Peter over a merger. Their rivalry was public, heated, and well documented. Vanessa orchestrated a confrontation, goading Peter into a shouting match with Marcus in the study, witnessed by dozens. Later that night, Marcus was found dead, a knife plunged into his chest. The weapon, wiped clean of prints except for Peter's, was one from his own kitchen. Security footage, conveniently tampered with, showed Peter entering the study alone minutes before the body was discovered. Vanessa had staged it all, planting the knife and tipping off the police with an anonymous call. The trial was a spectacle. Peter, stunned by the betrayal, could barely mount a defense. Vanessa, playing the grieving friend, testified tearfully about Peter's volatile temper. The jury saw a spoiled tech mogul, not the boy who'd once coded his way out of poverty. Evidence piled up, the knife, the footage, a motive rooted in corporate rivalry. Peter was sentenced to life without parole, his empire collapsing as investors fled. Vanessa moved quickly, attempting to claim the partially transferred assets. But the incomplete paperwork foiled her, she gained only a fraction of what she'd schemed for before the courts froze Peter's estate. She vanished to Europe, her name synonymous with scandal, her greed unsatisfied. Lila, left to pick up the pieces, sold what remained of Peter's untainted assets, a few stocks, a modest cabin in Woodington. She opened a bakery in their old hometown, her hands once again calloused, but now from kneading dough. Sophie grew up surrounded by the scent of fresh bread and her mother's quiet strength. With time, Lila's bakery grew tremendously. She never spoke ill of Peter, only telling Sophie that her father had lost his way. In his cell, Peter had endless nights to reflect. The boy who'd loved Lila under the stars was a ghost now, buried under the weight of his choices. He wrote her letters she never answered, each one a plea for forgiveness she'd never grant.
His dreams, once so vivid, were now shadows on concrete walls, a reminder of the man he'd been, the love he'd betrayed, and the empire he'd lost to a woman who'd played him for a fool.